Hello there, all you Collabcast listeners. This is Captain Dave Jackson coming to you from, once again, sunny Hendersonville, Tennessee. And my guest today is none other than Doug Benz from Buffalo, New York. Doug, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Captain Dave. Happy to be here.
Absolutely. Happy to have you on. Our listeners are going to enjoy it. I guarantee it. So, Doug, I like to start off with my guests just to give a little bit of personal background instead of talking about, our good old and boring insurance industry. Let's start with you from the very start. Where did you grow up and raise and grow up?
Yeah, right on. So, right here in sunny Buffalo, New York. I'm 45. I lived here pretty much my whole life because I went to college here. I lived away for 3.5, 4 years down in Southwest Florida, working for another agency there at one point in time. But pretty much, born and raised in Buffalo, and despite what some people say about the weather, it's a pretty darn nice place to live, and it's a nice city, it's a nice community, and my wife Liz, who started the agency with me. She and I have 6 kids. The oldest is 19. The youngest is 7. So we have a pretty busy life.
Holy cow. We could talk for an hour on just 6 kids. Your 19-year-old in college?
She's in college, Jane, at Salve Regina. It's in Newport, Rhode Island. She's a sophomore.
Okay.
And
How'd she decide to go there?
Well, she told us at some point along the way when she was applying to all these different schools, she said, I said, what is the commonality here between your choice and where you'd like to go? And she said, I'm applying only in coastal cities. So she's like, I want to go to college on the ocean. So,
coastal cities. Wow.
I know. I thought that was pretty good.
That is cool.
So she applied there, and they gave her a really nice scholarship, and it's a very nice spot. She can see the ocean from her dorm room when the leaves are off the trees. Oh. And Newport, Rhode Island's a pretty nice spot if you've ever been there. I'm sure some listeners
I love Newport.
have. So.
Yeah. Good for her. That's pretty darn cool.
Academic,
cool, athletic, or? She's
an academic type, pretty much. She's taken philosophy and art history. She wants to work in a museum, so that's her. She wants to work in an art museum is her goal. So
that's pretty cool. You must be proud.
She's on her way. She's on her way. I am very proud. So our oldest and youngest are girls. We got 4 boys in the middle. So
how old is the oldest boy?
Yeah, he is 17, and he's a high school junior.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's Jack, and then Charlie is 16. He's a high school sophomore. Fred's in 8th grade. George is in 5th grade. And our youngest, Marilyn, we call her Bunny, she is in 1st grade.
Wow.
So we've got the whole
school. Yeah, you got the whole gamut going. So Jack is a junior, so this is like SAT time and all that good stuff, right?
It is. It is SAT time and starting to think about where he might like to go. So, So yeah, he's expressed a lot of questions about insurance lately from him, which is interesting. So we'll see.
Really,
we'll see if that's a bug that sticks or if he goes in a different direction.
Any campus visits yet?
Nah. We looked at the University of Miami on vacation, and that's it.
Okay, what do you think of that?
I think he kind of liked it. What's not to like down there?
Big school.
Big school. It's a big school.
Much bigger than his older sister.
That's for sure. There's like I don't know how many kids there are at Salve, but not. It's a pretty small school. So, so he's looking around. He's got some. I think I was mentioning we lived in Florida for a bit, so he's got a little bit of that Florida bug. I think that he would like to. I think he'd like to spend a little more time down there. So we'll see what happens.
Cool.
Yeah.
So I see outside the window, just over your shoulder, green grass. But Buffalo's known for your massive snowfalls.
Massive snowfalls.
And so you've been there long enough. What's the most snow you've ever seen on the ground?
Ooh, that's a good question. So snow is weird, right? Because, it might just fall with no wind, but it might also kind of pile up in a drift. And we had probably the worst storm I've ever seen in my life. This past Christmas, unfortunately, it was I
Wow.
think Christmas Eve it started, and maybe December 23rd, Friday morning, the snow started falling, and it was basically a frozen hurricane. We had super low temps and like 80-mile-an-hour winds, and
Oh.
in some spots the drifts were so high that people were like climbing to the top of them, and they were like touching signal lights. Um, uh,
And you're not even joking.
I am not joking, and it was like
That's like 12, 15
yeah,
feet.
and like again because the wind was so bad across the street, it might have
Right.
been kind of
Right.
bare, but like
Right.
50
I
people
know.
died, and it was horrible. And certainly for our agency, I had never been through anything like that before. It was a major claim event,
Wow.
and
Right.
just a lot of property damage from
Sure.
roofs
For
blown
sure.
off to frozen pipes. So that was a
Hmm.
lot of snow, and it wasn't very fun. But we never lost any power, and we didn't see any family over Christmas. We were just all of us kind of snowed in for
That was
Christmas,
my
but we
next
had a full
question.
fridge, and it was all in all, we were together as a family, so we were grateful for that.
Yeah. Do the grocery store shelves go bare when you have these big warning of big events like that?
They do. We're pretty well prepared for it here, so people don't panic generally, and
Oh,
that's
that's good.
good. And then we've got tons of plows and salters and everything, so I find that makes a difference versus sometimes you're in another city and they get a little bit of snow and everyone freaks out because they're not too well equipped at handling it. But Buffalo does a
Right.
pretty good job. We're pretty well prepared, and not too much freak out. But this storm
Hmm.
in December was, snowplows wouldn't move the snow because it was so
Right.
tightly
Too
packed
much
by
for
that
them.
wind. So it was like they had to bring in like heavy construction equipment to move it.
Hmm.
So
And put it in dump trucks and move it
that's
out.
exactly what they did. That's exactly what they
Yeah.
did. Yeah. This right behind me outside our office window was kind of like a staging site where they were just dumping it out here, and then they had other payloaders that
Hmm.
were loading it into trucks and carting it off. So that it was pretty unreal. But then it was not. Then it was kind of sort of a mild winter after that. Lake Erie
Hmm.
is where we live. So in Buffalo, if you're not
Hmm.
familiar with it, we're on the border with Canada.
Right.
As the crow flies, Canada is probably about a mile and a half, 2 miles to the west of where I'm sitting right now, Fort Erie,
Okay.
Ontario, and
Hmm.
and Lake Erie is the shallowest of the Great Lakes, and it freezes. It's the only one of the Great Lakes that will freeze on the surface. So it did not freeze this year. So it kind of helps give us a little bit of an early spring. Um, but it wasn't a super cold winter. It wasn't. I feel like we got all of our snow in like 2 or 3 storms. November, December,
Wow.
March, sort of all came for us.
And also good for business when it's mild like that. So,
Yeah, agreed.
but boy, that Christmas storm, that sounded like a doozy.
Yeah, like I said, and I think in the recorded history of the city, we never had. Usually people don't die in snowstorms. So,
Hmm.
like I said, again, about 50 lives lost, people in their car and their homes without heat, things
Wow.
like that. On
That's
Christmas, it was
unbelievable.
about as heartbreaking as it gets.
Yeah. Huh. So you and I have met in the past, but our listeners may not know too much about your past. But so I'm looking at your LinkedIn profile, and early before your insurance days, it says you are a photographer,
It was.
and you even worked at the New York Times as a photographer. Is that true?
That is true, as a matter of fact. I was,
How'd you get into that work?
I started out in maybe like senior year of high school and into college, kind of getting hooked up with some folks that needed kind of some gopher help, really, on
Hmm.
some bigger photo projects. And I just sort of hung around, like many things in life. I kind of hung around and absorbed a bunch, and started shooting some pictures myself. And in college at the University of Buffalo, I became the photo editor of the Spectrum newspaper there, and was doing a lot of news and sports, and got out of college and just kind of kept running with it. So I did it till I was about 30, and the Times was great. I was kind of like a contract freelancer, and I would shoot about 50 or so assignments a year, so maybe one a week, and was based here in Buffalo. So I'd go down toward Cleveland or over toward Albany or down to into Pennsylvania or up into Canada maybe. For the most part, was kind of focused in this region of the country, covering news and sports and politics and all kinds of good stuff. So.
So were you self-taught or educated?
Yeah, I was
in
self-taught.
photography?
I was. I never took a photography class in my life.
Wow. And is that back before the digital days?
So I mentioned kind of getting into it gophering, and one of the things that I started in the business doing was there was a guy here in Buffalo, and he worked for the wire service Reuters, and the Bills and the Sabres and some college sports and other things were like a big part of what that entailed. So in the film days, we would process film on location at a sporting event. We would have a dark room, and then like maybe the Associated Press, who was our competitor, would also have a dark room, and we would process film and take those negatives and scan them into these pretty primitive computers and hook them up to a phone line, and that's how we would transmit a photograph. So, and that changed, so I started doing this, like I said, senior year of high school was like 1995-ish, and by 2000, the digital revolution was in full swing. But for magazine work, there wasn't enough resolution in a digital photo. It was good for newspaper print, but for the high-res stuff, it was probably really 2004, 2005, until that really started seeing, fully prevalent digital photography. I think maybe the first Super Bowl that Sports Illustrated shot film or shot digital instead of film was probably like around 2003, 4, 5, somewhere in there. So,
Okay.
but yeah, it was a wild way to do it. So I was kind of I was really good in the dark room, and that was how I started out. When you're shooting professional sports on film at night, there's a lot. There was a real art to processing the film in a way that it was as good as it could get. So that was sort of how I started, and I was taking some pictures myself somewhere along the way. And I got out of college in 2001, and if you happen to remember a news item from back then, there was a story of the Lackawanna Six. It was
I got nothing.
maybe a year after 9/11, and they were like a sleeper cell of alleged terrorists that were in a Southtown suburb here in Buffalo called Lackawanna. So it was a huge story, and it gave me my big break. I worked for the New York Post for like 12 or 14 days straight, and spent a lot of time in that neighborhood, and then when those folks were arrested and appearing in court, and then I was like kind of in business with it. I kept at it. So I did a number of things and worked for a lot of different people over time, and I got to cover the president, and I went to some sporting events around the world and some pretty good stuff. So it was
Strictly, I'm sorry.
I was going to say it was fun, but with a family, print media around that '08 crash, that was the time that I was kind of like, I just don't see 30. I don't think I'm going to do this for like another 35 years. So I'm like, I think I need to put my effort into something else, a pivot, and found this business.
Gotcha. Gotcha. That's crazy. What a story. But if you pick up a camera today, what do you do with it? Still dabble?
A little bit. I actually enjoy it, and I'd like to get a little bit more back into it. But yeah, I do. It's changed a lot. You know, these mirrorless cameras are pretty incredible, and
Yeah, they are.
you know, back when we like, you know, at the end of film, like a color 800 ISO, which was a fast speed film, it was good in low light, was like a really big deal. You know, now the capability of these cameras to freeze action in dim light is really impressive. You know, they have these high ISOs as they call them. So,
Right.
yeah, I do a little bit, and I'm trying to rebuild a little kit of gear. So, those big giant lenses you see people running around with on a football sideline, they're expensive, believe it or
Right.
not. So,
Oh
I'm
yeah.
slowly.
More so than the camera.
What's that?
I insured camera. More so than the camera
Yeah, that's
itself.
right.
I
Yeah.
insured camera collections, and the lens collections were tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Those big guys that you see people running around with on the sidelines that are on a monopod, those are, I don't know, depending on what it is, 10 to 15,000 probably for one of those new.
Yep. Yeah, crazy. That's very cool. So you talked about you left photography work and got into this industry. What was your first day on the job in the insurance industry?
Well, I remember it pretty well. I had kind of just resolved that I wanted to get into this business. I didn't have the interest in really trying to go back to school or go to law school or something like that. I really just kind of wanted to start working, and I liked this idea of residual income. You know, when I was taking pictures, I could really only get paid to take that photo at that moment for the most part. And in the digital world, it really crushed all of the resale and some of those rights you used to get. So I thought this was pretty interesting because if you can build up a bunch of clients, you know, you can kind of compound it over time and have this residual income. So I was focused on something like that, and you know,
Because Liz was already in the business?
no, she
Or
was not
oh,
at all.
why
You know, my wife is
insurance?
really also an artist by background, and it wasn't until we started that I just kind of begged her for some help, and she showed up and started helping me, and sort of took
Okay.
over everything personal lines, and has run with it really, really nicely. So in the beginning stage, Liz was more helping with like social media and decorating the office and some things like that, and
Right.
sort of fell into actual insurance work. But it was just me in the beginning. First day on the job, I mean, it's like you hear the cliche, but it was a phone and a pretty basic desktop computer and a phone book and a script.
So you're a producer.
I started as a producer, and I was shooting pictures, you know, still, and kind of would build a book of business around that schedule. And a lot of the work I would do at night, it could be flexible, you know, like hockey games or Bills games are on weekends and things like that. So 9 to 5 in the office worked okay, and I would just pick a class of business. Like landscapers was one. We had a market that loved to write landscapers back then, and I'd go through the yellow pages and take like where all the landscapers were, and I just take a pencil and mark down when I call them. I wasn't even using a spreadsheet. I was just making notes in the margins of the phone book, and I just kept thinking to myself, I'm probably not the best or brightest person to ever do this, but if I just keep doing it and don't give up, sooner or later, it's gonna have to
You'll
come together.
persevere.
So it did. It did.
Okay. Amherst Insurance Agency, was that your first job?
It was. Yeah, it was absolutely. And there's
How long were you there?
so I started there in '09, and they trained me in the business, and that was where I learned insurance. And when they opened up another office in 2013, I think, down in Naples, Florida. They offered me the opportunity to move down there and kind of run the show. So, so I did that until we launched here back in Buffalo in basically January of 2017. Yeah.
17, so 6 years now.
That's right.
New Buffalo has been in existence. Okay.
6 years of New Buffalo.
So tell me about your agency, your current agency. What is your mix of business?
Yeah.
Personal, commercial, benefits, life?
New York's a little weird on life. It really is its own silo. So like companies that do both don't seem to do too much, will not do the life so much in New York. So life and health, we focus on referral partners for them. And they take that for our clients. And on the P&C side of things, probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 70% commercial. And
Okay.
that was always really my focus. And I've continued with it now. So I like to fancy us as a commercial agency. I think we do some really great stuff that we don't see a ton of other people out in the marketplace doing in terms of kind of risk advising. So I'm happy with that. And then certainly a lot of personal lines too. We got a pretty robust personal line side of things.
Cool. Any niches on the commercial side?
I have some areas of focus. I don't have any like custom programs or anything.
Okay.
But a lot of contractors, some schools and other kinds of not-for-profits that maybe get funding from the state is an area that we focus on. And we write a bunch of professional liability for like attorneys and accountants and other types of consultants and folks like that. And I have a market that's really aggressive on manufacturing, and I've been trying to push a little bit harder into the manufacturing as well. But that's about it. Pretty well rounded, I feel like. Nothing highly specialized.
Okay. Is your area got a good concentration of manufacturing?
I think it's okay. I don't think it's a giant concentration of manufacturing. We are in New York, and I think it's an expensive state to do business. So
Right.
years ago, there was kind of this big exodus down to the Carolinas and Pennsylvania and some other people. But so I don't think it's crazy, but there's enough of it. And there's some people doing some really cool things. There's a lot of innovation, a lot of technology that drives stuff around here. So so there is a little more than you might think.
Okay.
Yeah.
On the commercial side, who are your top 3 carriers?
Ooh. So I would say Selective and Merchants Mutual, which is like a super regional. It's actually headquartered here. They're in like probably 14 or 16 states. And then Liberty and Hartford are other big ones for us.
Okay. Sweet. Personal line side, any heavy carriers heavy on one?
Yeah.
1, 2, or 3 of those?
Boy, it is so weird right now, and I feel like, by the time I answer this question and you publish this podcast, it might change. There's like a lot. We're shifting around a lot of deck chairs at the moment, but we do a bunch with Safeco. Safeco's traditionally been a great partner, and I think that they have been our number one. A company called New York Central Mutual writes policies in New York only, home and auto, umbrella, and some small commercial. We do a lot with them. They're a great company that's been around for a long time. We do have Travelers, we have Progressive, we have the normal deck, but those two have been two of our bigger ones, I think. Hope I'm not forgetting anybody, but those have been two that we've been focusing on a lot, I think. We'll see what happens this year. It's like it is. Nobody's happy, and we're not accustomed to doing, basically rerunning like everybody, which is sort of what needs to be done. So, like I said, it's a lot of switching around, and it seems like the carriers that pop up in the top of the radar change by the week or the month. So we'll see what the future has in store, but there's some pain to be spread around in the immediate future.
So for our listeners who don't understand what you're talking about our current hard market. So
That's right.
So other than reshopping, remarketing, you're getting calls from your clients. This is what I hear from everybody, New York or Florida or wherever. I'm getting calls because my premium didn't go up $1. It went up 10 times what I'm used to paying, that kind of thing. It's just crazy. I wrote an article in our group that you and I are affiliated with that in IAOA that said that's the hardest market I've ever experienced in 44 years in this industry. And
I saw that.
Yeah, it's this year's. Well, started last year.
It's a little scary,
It's
right?
crazy.
I mean,
You just wonder how far is it going to go and when's it going to end?
how far can it go? And I mean, we lived through 15 years ago, a banking crisis, and I guess I just am optimistic that things will settle and go back to normal a little bit. I saw a good headline just at lunchtime today about Travelers had an outstanding report on their I think first quarter, and their stock price was surging. So hopefully there's some settle down coming to what we've all been experiencing, because it is strange and disconcerting. And to your question, I mean, we're educating our clients one-on-one when they call and through social media and other things about what's going on. And I would say for the most part, people are pretty understanding. They know that a gallon of milk is 40% higher than it was a few years ago, and they know, other goods and services and products are all kind of up. So I don't think anybody's surprised. It's not out of the blue that insurance rates are up. And, when you tell somebody that the average cost of an auto repair on a national average is practically double what it was 4 years ago, they can understand that,
Yeah,
so
you make a good point about educating, because how many calls do you get where I haven't had a claim, no tickets, no accidents, and my rate's still going up like a crazy amount? And you have to educate them that, you need to understand, first of all, how the insurance works fundamentally, even though your claim, you don't have claims to be paid, other people with that insurance company do, and your premiums help pay for theirs. So, and when you have a claim, especially if it's a big dollar claim, all your premiums aren't covering that one loss. Everybody else's collective premiums are. So I don't know that they always understand that. It just takes a reminder, to tell them, it's a pool, it's a risk pooling mechanism. And so it's just the overall cost of doing business. Legal expenses are up, car parts, labor, on homes, materials. Got to wait on
wages,
materials still.
People that are working in the collision shops.
Wages,
Yeah.
Remember when everybody... So go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. Please. Remember what?
Remember when everybody wanted minimum wage to jump from $8 to $15? Remember that?
Yeah,
so there's a ripple effect to all of that. So now your $15 person says, hey, I deserve more than minimum wage. I want 22. So, it just it doesn't end. So, but who has to bear the cost of that? The business owner, and he has to pass it on to the consumer at some point somehow.
Well, especially think about your contracting clients, where they're not only their work comp, but their general liability is rated on their payroll. Mm-hmm. And now, just a short time ago, they were able to pay an entry level laborer $15 or $16 an hour. And now that's 20 or 21. Exactly. So, we're hearing, my gosh, we don't really have a big change in our operations. Our payroll hasn't grown because we've grown. Our revenue's the same, but our payroll's way up, and it's having a big impact on our insurance costs. So, there's a lot of educating to do for sure. One thing on those auto claims, Dave, is that, a couple carriers have told me, used to be 3 days of a rental car. You had a little fender bender, you dropped your car off, and 3 days of a rental car, and then they said, now we're paying on, I don't know, some large percentage of policies, the max. If it's a $1,500 limit for 30 days, they're paying it almost every time, and then they get their customers calling and screaming them when they take it away because their car's still not fixed.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
nobody's happy
Yep.
right
You
now.
have to. We need to take the rental car back, but by the way, your car's not done in the shop yet. So yeah, that doesn't go over well. So yeah, it's just
And
a
we've
tough,
had a
tough
number of-
market.
Number of conversations on that. Let me tell you, that's like a common one that we've been answering, where it's like time to give the car back, even though the repair is not complete.
Right. Yep. So it's a tough market. So what's employee morale like in this kind of a hard market, and how do you manage that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think everyone, feels that we're working a little bit harder and dealing with some things that are unusual. And some people that are newer to the business here, they're like, you keep saying this isn't the norm, And I'm like, well, maybe I have to start thinking it's the new norm.
Right.
But anyway, I think it's pretty good. And, at the end of the day, it's a fun business because you get to help people. You're working with people and you get to try and help them. So I think, hopefully it's pretty good around here.
So are you doing anything more special for your employees than you normally would?
I apologize if I had a frog in my throat there.
That's okay.
Real quick. I turned my mic off for a moment.
So are you taking care of your employees any differently than you normally would?
Another great question. I think that I don't know that we do. I think certainly going to an IAOA conference or other places where you hear from agency owners and sort of learn about culture and its importance. That was something when I was starting out that I was really committed to building just an awesome culture. And you see some folks that we all know who are out there and doing it so well. I like to think we have a nice culture here. It's kind of a family first, and people want to kind of work from home or work from the office. We're generally pretty flexible. We order lunch in on days when we're all here and celebrate people's birthdays and just other things. So I think that it's not anything too different, but we're always mindful of the fact that anybody that works for us could maybe get somebody else down the street to pay them $1,000 more a year or something. So it's important to focus on culture and make sure that your people are feeling good and happy about the place they're working and how they're being treated, and that what's going on with them and their lives matter, and that at the end of the day, as much as they give to you, they need to take care of their family, whether it's a parent that's sick or little kids or what have you. So we seem to focus on that. So far, so good. I hope.
Good. Are you doing anything special with your employees? Like any of them working remotely when they wouldn't normally, or anything
Dave,
like
I
that?
don't know. They're going to listen to this podcast and they're going to hold me. They're going to hold my feet to the fire here. But we do Monday and Friday remote, and sometimes Wednesday. And certainly, if somebody's got something going on that they say, "Hey, I want to work from home tomorrow," it's no big deal. So. Personally, I kind of love when we're all together in the office. I feed off of that energy. Today was a day that we were all here, and it feels nice to me. But the work from home thing, admittedly to my chagrin a bit, is just like wildly popular with people, and they really want to do it. So we got to try to maybe come up, like I said, we do the Monday and Fridays, maybe every other Wednesday from home kind of thing. And if something's going on or somebody's coming in or there's a reason, to be in the office, we have some flexibility to say, hey, can everybody come in on Friday or something like that. But for the most part, we're set up for the back and forth from home, and it works, and it works. It works.
How much did COVID influence that?
COVID totally influenced it, and we didn't know we were doing no work from home before COVID, and then COVID happened, and God, it was so weird, right, Dave? I feel like our whole life we're going to be just kind of decompressing from COVID and telling our grandkids these stories about this crazy time or something. But I mean, when it first happened, it was pretty much me, coming in every day by myself, and I just remember sitting in this empty office. And then after a while, we came back, and then I think this current sort of setup with the Monday, Friday, and every other Wednesday is kind of post-COVID. We were home, and then we were back, and we were kind of hybrid, but without a real, without it being kind of formalized, or okay, this is how we're going to do it for now, and we'll revisit. So then, sometime in 2022, we kind of said, okay, a question I learned to ask at IAOA is, wave your magic wand, and what would you like this to look like? And everybody kind of said if we could be at home on Monday and Friday, we would really love that. So we said, let's do it.
So you found a compromise.
We found the compromise, and I hope that has value. Like I said, I hope it has value to people, because we are who we are because of our staff, and our clients, know and relate to and like Louise and Emily and Liz and hopefully me and Noah and Dave and the folks on our team, and it's not something we can just interchange, So it's like, while you sort of think of the producer really as having the relationship with the client, clients are also used to talking to a lot of other people in the office when they have a bill question, or they need some kind of special certificate that's complex or something like that, or there's a claim. It's a lot of the other staff that they've gotten to know. So we don't want to change.
Sweet.
We don't want to change our lineup. That's for sure. We want to add to it.
Right. So I'm really curious. What does, as much as you can, what does your tech stack look like in your agency?
Yeah.
Like start with your AMS and build up. What's that look like? Who are you using?
Yeah. Who are we using? We use for our AMS. We use a Xywave product called Agency Matrix.
Okay.
We do use Agency Zoom as well as our CRM. We use all kinds of great folks like Lightspeed Voice and Advisor Evolved and other Xywave products we have in there. And we've been doing some BombBomb videos.
Tell people about what's BombBomb, because people are going to want, those that don't know are going to be curious.
BombBomb is it's kind of a video proposal program, and it's very smooth and easy and intuitive to use. And you set up your camera and your microphone like we have here for the podcast, and you can record a quick video. Mr. Jackson, I got your home and auto proposal here ready to go, and let me tell you a little bit about it. And then you can fire off this video. You can send a link through your own email, and it pulls a cool little Giphy of you kind of going like this, and then it tells you if it's been watched and by who and how many times and some things like that. So I find it to be pretty cool, and people like it, and it's something we've been using for a little bit now. But sending out those personalized video proposals, it comes off as a kind of a tech forward sort of agency, I think, and it's a neat it's a neat program.
Do you see a higher close ratio using those?
I think we do, and we like to talk to people on the phone too, but it's like, you know what? If you want to get back to somebody, I mean, nobody wants to send out complex proposals for people to, very few people really want to just look at that and try to discern it without a little explanation.
Exactly.
So it gives you a chance
Right.
to sort of meet people on their timetable when they have a moment. I find, especially on the personal lines, a lot of them are viewed in the evening. And
Right.
and then a phone conversation or however you want to take the next step is in order, sort of with the ball in their court. So I think it's a nice way to do it.
Cool. So what else is in your tech stack?
What else is in this tech stack? I almost have to. I got to go look at my saved links here for a minute.
Are they using anything? I'll throw a few examples at you. Using anything unique for like texting or
we use text request
let's see.
and
e-signature.
Yep. Okay, so we use a independent standalone text request service that it's called textrequest.com. We started with that when we opened the agency, and that works pretty well. Things have evolved now, so we have the ability to also text through Lightspeed, but we kind of haven't totally migrated that. A lot of people have this number saved, and the texts integrate real easily into our system. So we've kind of hung with that for a minute. We've migrated a little bit from ePay and FormStack, although we're still using those, to this IPFS solution where they've got their kind of Quivit total pay thing where you can collect deposits and e-signatures all through one link that you send to someone. So instead of saying, hey, you're going to get an email from me, and then you're going to get an ePay link, and then you're going to get a FormStack link, this is like one email. You want to finance, you want to pay in full, sign here, and it moves the deposits through. So that's been a change for us last year, and that's going really well. But it's amazing how much things have changed in the short time I've been doing this. 10 years ago, you would scan an app in, send it to somebody, ask them to print it and sign it and send it back to you, scan it back to you, or even fax it back to you. And, now that would be like unheard of. So the e-sign is great. It's like super efficient. And then,
It is.
And then the electronic payment on top of it. I mean, again, 10 years ago, we were getting app signed and collecting checks,
Yep. Totally different. What about Raider, personalized Raider?
We use the Vertifor PL Raider, and that's what we've been with since
a lot of
we
folks like that.
got going. That's an interesting, I don't know if you've run into this, but it's interesting that in this hard market with a number of these carriers that aren't, I won't name names, but a number of them that are just viewing new business differently than they have traditionally. They don't spit out a number anymore.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're not spitting out a number, so it's a little bit interesting to have this software that's kind of costly, and the carrier says like log in directly and rate it up. Maybe by client or something. Maybe it's just for everybody, but it seems like a little bit backwards.
Right. Which causes more work for staff than probably ever before. So it's all compounding,
Yeah, that's right.
That's
Because
the hard market we're in.
I know. Just tell me the number, and but it's interesting to have companies say like call you, not email you, and tell you, we would prefer it if you didn't place any new business with us right now. It's like what?
Yeah, that's unheard of, and because I talk to agency principals all the time, and so many of them are. It doesn't matter what state either. There's almost everywhere across the board. No new business, so agencies are just looking at let's concentrate on keeping on the books what we already have, and increasing our retention. And when you think about it, if I can just increase my retention, personal lines, commercial, either way, just 2%, I may not even have to write new business for a little while. So that's right. Fine if I can do that. So, but that's a whole different work set, to try to keep that increasing versus writing new business. So it's a catch-22 for sure.
It's a catch-22, and I've talked to some people that are that might surprise you to say that it costs so much to remarket this stuff that they're barely even really doing it. They just rather lose it than remarket it, which is an interesting take. But we'll see where it shakes out. One of the things that I've read is a lot of carriers are getting rebuffed from the states where they're trying to take some rates. So that's why this personal lines thing in particular is a little squirrely, because
right.
When you have a carrier saying, please don't place any business with us right now, I think what they're saying is, we don't want you to place any business with us until we can get approved to take some big rate hikes. So, again, I'm always hopeful from where I sit that this tumult settles down, the pendulum kind of swings back. So, we're ready for it. We're ready for it too. We're all in the same boat with these companies. I mean, I think some of these personal lines people that we've talked to have been, flat out said, okay, I've got to look around in some other places because I'm getting squeezed financially. So, and come back to us and say, hey, you know what? You still look pretty darn good. So, I'll take that. And then on the flip side, just trying to, look for the opportunities in all of it, right? So, especially on the commercial side, if, pain points are opportunities.
For sure.
So, we're out there hustling at the same time, too. We're not just spinning in our chair lamenting about it.
That's all you can do. Yep. So, 2 more questions to finish off.
Sir.
What's left for you personally in your career?
Oh, man. I know. It's funny. I'm 15 years in now, and I guess 14 years in June. And I'm 15 years away from being 60. So I might be in the middle point of,
you're a tweener.
I know.
We call you a tweener.
It's weird to think about, right?
You're not a millennial. You're not a boomer. You're a Gen Z.
Tweener. So we'll remain to be seen. My goal right now is to continue to grow this agency, invest and grow this agency. And, there's so much else going on that we're seeing people do that it does seem exciting to be part of. Maybe, investing in some of these technologies and new things that are exciting, and some other dimensions like that, which does appeal to me. But my focus right now is really just this agency, is just to continue to grow it and develop it and make it just a great place to work for all of us who are here, and serve our clients, and we'll see what the future brings. But I got some ideas, but I think focusing on the agency, I'm not like motivated to try and sell or get it just a little bit bigger and sell really right now. I'm gonna keep working, and hopefully it gives me a chance to spend a little bit more time in Florida, where I love. I tested out on Easter vacation a decent amount of remote work myself over the 2 weeks that we were there, and it went pretty smoothly. So I'm like, I could do this. I think.
Cool.
For a little bit. Get out of the Buffalo winter for a minute.
For sure. Last question. What's your favorite app on your phone right now?
Yeah, that's a great question. What I love is this stupid Ring app. We got these doorbells and cameras and all this stuff at home, and I have it at the office too. So I've been it's kind of fresh and new. So I've been enjoying playing with that. So maybe my newest fun one a little bit.
And for all you Collabcast listeners out there, I've been visiting today with Doug Benz of New Buffalo Insurance Agency in Buffalo, New York. Doug, I want to thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate your time, sir. And I'm sure we'll see you at a future IAOA event sometime very soon. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Dave. It's been a real joy. I appreciate you having me today, and it's been fun to chat. I'll talk to you soon, and I'll see you in Chicago.
Sounds good, Doug. Thanks. Say hi to Liz.
I will. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you for listening to Collabcast with IAOA with Captain Dave Jackson. Production and distribution by Podsquad.fm, Riverside.fm, and Spotify for podcasters. Special thanks to Little Dog Social Media, Terry Champion, and all our guests and listeners. If you're an independent insurance agency owner, please subscribe to our podcast weekly. You can also request to join our agency owner exclusive Facebook group, IAOA, or Insurance Agency Owners Alliance at IAOA.com. Captain Dave Jackson signs out from sunny Hendersonville, Tennessee.